Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MarketingProfs Friday Forum on Video Marketing. I am Matt Snodgrass, the Director of Community at MarketingProfs, and I want to say thank you all to being here. This is the reason we do this. We do these all for you guys, and thanks for taking your time of your day and giving it to us today. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the next presentation of the day, but before we begin, just a few brief housekeeping notes. If you experience any audio or visual problems, if your audio is skipping, if things freeze up, try to refresh the page, log out and log back in. If you're on Wi-Fi and if you have a lot of different applications open, that can certainly slow things down. If, like me, you usually have about 350 different browser tabs open, that's definitely going to be a problem. So you may want to close out of some of those if you are having issues. Don't forget, you can download the presentation slides. They are available right now or anytime during the presentation by clicking the download slides button in the upper right of your screen. If you want to join the conversation today with your peers, with MarketingProf staff, click the orange chat now button in the lower right. So we have chat at the bottom, slides at the top. And of course, be sure and stop in and check out our sponsor Adtaxi's booth at some point today for additional resources, great product information, a lot of good stuff there to take advantage of. And finally, if you'd like to follow today's conversation on Twitter, please use the hashtag MProfs. That is hashtag MPROFS, MProfs. Now, please join me in welcoming our next presenter and today's sponsor, Lindsay O'Connor. Lindsay began her career at Augusta National Golf Club in corporate sales. She joined Adtaxi in 2010 and went on to expand her digital expertise by advising brands nationwide. Lindsay is presenting Making a Video Strategy That Doesn't Get Skipped. At the end of the presentation, we will ask Lindsay any questions you have, so feel free to pop those in the chat. And again, we'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. And with that, I am delighted to hand it over. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. Are you ready to roll?
I am ready. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Nice intro. So I'm very excited. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. As Matt said, we're going to talk about video strategy. So some of the things we're going to talk about, first of all, just setting up where the market's at with video and specifically why video is important. Finally, how to activate and find your ideal audience, and then pairing that with the right platform. So finding your audience and then where to actually make sure you're getting in front of them. And then finally, how to measure and attribute success to all of this hard work that you're doing. So first, we're going to talk about market adoption. I think it's really, really important, again, to focus on why video is such a unique platform to be able to tell your story. So outside of any other creative form, video allows us to incorporate sight, sound, and motion. And when you pull those three things together, it elicits emotion. And when you're able to pull emotion from people, you're more likely, able to resonate and have more of an impact, I would say. So it's just a very cool creative form to be utilizing right now. So even though the trends are out there, we're all talking about connected TV, TikTok is on point all the time. Video, really, the reason why it works is just because of the creative form and this whole emotional piece. Another thing I just want to point out on the creative, and in case anybody just listened to the previous speaker talk about video creative, it is also really, really key to make sure that you have, different videos created for different audiences. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but I just think that's another important piece. So next, I want to go through some stats. 78% of people report to be watching video online each week. So that just shows that the overall vast majority of people are online. They're streaming content in some capacity. And so we know that audiences are there and they're consuming video. Online video consumption is up. We know this with the pandemic, right? Everybody's been streaming, but the largest increase most recently is with 46-year-olds. And so I think that's a really important stat to know that the numbers are continuing to skew upward. And so more and more people are adopting this use of streaming. The next one, 69% of people say they most prefer to learn about a new product or service by watching a video. And I think that's really key because as businesses and marketers, we're always trying to get in front of new audiences, right? We want to constantly be filling our pipeline and filling in new prospects. And so video is a really great way to do it. And the people are saying they want to consume it via video. And then finally, 50% of linear TV and CTV buyers plan to shift to an audience-first strategy instead of content-first. And so that's a really important piece and actually is going to go with a lot of the themes that I'm going to speak about. content has just been the way that typically, if we think about traditional or linear TV, people buy it via content, right? We assume that certain people are watching this channel or this, show or whatever it is, right? So we're making assumptions based on Nielsen data. However, the audience first strategy, pairing some of this, technology with video, allows us to really hone in your audience and reach them no matter what content they're streaming. And so really that's the point. And I'm going to show you how to identify and get into your audience next. One thing to point out when we think about audience, it's not just that awareness piece, right? It is super, super important, obviously, to get people to actually come to you and buy, but you need to make sure that you're doing this high funnel branding and then also nurturing people. So this middle of the funnel, this like engagement and consideration piece, sometimes can get a little bit lost or forgotten, or we're not really sure how to strategically play in that area. But it's really, really important that we're focused on all little levels. And I will go through how to do that as well. But I think a great example, McDonald's, Mercedes, they don't go into a new market and just open the doors and say, hey, just come get me, right? They are still marketing. Even though we all have heard of McDonald's, we all know Mercedes, they still put the marketing efforts out there and they're nurturing people along the funnel throughout the whole time. So if they're doing it, it's really important for us to know that it's very important to do it as well. So a lot of the clients and prospects that we talk to, we're just inundated, right? From marketers or people who are trying to figure out marketing with so many different things that are hitting the streets and just coming at us from a digital perspective that it can be very consuming almost and overwhelming to figure out, where do I go? What do I need to do? And these three primary questions have honestly stood the test of time through my experience with digital marketing. It just helps to kind of clear the path and really give you the area to focus and kind of breaks out some of the noise. So the three questions that you really want to focus on are, who do you want to reach? What do you want to tell them? And what do you want them to do? So those three things are key. And I'm going to focus a little bit on audience first, but I also want you to think about with these three questions. Let's just say you have a multitude of products and services, and one product might skew to a younger audience, another product might skew to an older. You want to treat those as two separate audiences and go ahead and answer these questions for each audience segment. So just wanted to point that out. But again, as we're thinking about from a prospecting standpoint, so going after net new people, or again, if maybe it's past people that you want to get a new product out to, there are really three key levers that you can pull to reach these prospects. There's first-party targeting, third-party targeting, and lookalike modeling. And so to explain those a little bit further, there's a lot going on this screen with, and obviously you can download the slides, but I'm going to talk through what each one of these looks like. So from a first-party targeting standpoint, that is really the gold standard of marketing right now, especially with all of the Apple updates that have rolled out, the cookieless future coming our way. First-party targeting and that data is going to be really important. And so one way to find your target, your first-party data is through your CRM. And if you don't have a CRM, again, I was talking to a friend last night about this, and she said, I don't have a CRM. I would love to have first-party data. But she was like, but we have a great email list. So that's first-party data as well, right? So if you don't have a CRM, but you have some way that you're collecting people's information who have purchased from you or have engaged with you in some capacity, that's great. You want to look at that. And the more you're able to analyze too, so from like a CRM standpoint, you can really take a look at what is the lifetime value of my clients? What does that life cycle look like? It helps give you an idea of how long you need to be prospecting for. Also, if from an e-com perspective, what is the average order value that the majority of my clientele are using? So really, you can break down these audiences and treat them differently as well once you get a little bit more granular with your CRM. The other piece too is pixel data. So understanding what consumers are doing once they come to your website. It'll feed a couple of things. One, it'll feed that first party data. So trying to see, okay, what are people doing? Where are they going? But it'll also help from just a pure UI standpoint. Are people coming to a certain page of your website and dropping off or totally leaving? So you can look, in GI your behavior flow and see what people are doing and maybe help you make some tweaks within your site also. But all of this first party information will help feed into predictive modeling or lookalike modeling. So basically what it's doing is saying, okay, here's a subset of people and they have these behaviors, they have these commonalities. Let me go find more like them because they're probably more likely to align with the type of audience I want to reach. And it's a really smart way to use targeting, right? And find more of the people you want. And then finally, third-party targeting, which is just, been out there for forever, but that's basically all the information that's out there about us as consumers out on the web. And you can break it down in a myriad of ways: behavioral targeting, contextual targeting, geolocation, demographic, what have you. So here are the ways. But this little gray box here at the bottom is probably the key thing to take away on this. We don't want to just make assumptions, right? We don't want to just say, you know what, I think I know my audience perfectly, and I'm just going to double down and go on this one group, and that's it. Instead, what you want to do is find 4 to 5 different audience segments and market to them, evenly, right? Split the budget evenly against all of these audience segments and let the campaign run and have the data tell you what to do. I'm sure as marketers, you are very smart about who your clientele is, but you never know, things can shift, right? Stuff is changing all the time. So making sure that you're casting a really large strategic net from a prospecting standpoint and then making adjustments to the campaign as it continues to run is really, really helpful. So something there, and I am going to talk about retargeting in a little bit. So that's the who. So who do you want to reach? So trying to be clear on that and being really smart and strategic about the type of targeting to reach those people. And then what do you want to tell them? So this is the next piece. And this can also be broken down as to where they are within the funnel. So if you look over here to the right-hand side, there's awareness, consideration, decision, and loyalty. These are like the main buckets that we see people fall into. And there's some really great content. So when you're putting creative out there, ways that you can align the content with where the people are in the funnel. So for instance, if you're trying to get awareness, just have people know who you are, what you do, what products, how you can help them and bring value. A brand and engagement video or an educational video. Those are really, really great to help nurture and bring people into your brand or business. And then as they get further down, so obviously they're looking at you and maybe some others, some of your competitors, trying to get a little bit more granular on why they should work with you. And that's where an explainer video, a how-to video, a product video, getting a little bit deeper about something they would care about. Sharing testimonials, those are huge. Case studies are great. Anything that's really going to reinforce that brand are some really good creative moves to reach people that are further down in the funnel. And then finally, some of the loyalty things. So this is where, again, you would kind of utilize from a retargeting standpoint, is utilizing a thank you video. So if somebody made a purchase with you, sending a thank you. I know I shop with this one online store, Lulu's, all the time. And they send me a little thank you email, or I get an upsell. I just bought a dress for a wedding and they sent me some fabulous shoes to go with it. So that would be an upsell example. So that's creating the loyalty. And of course, they always keep me coming back. And then as far as what do you want to do, right? So we know the audience, we're going to identify the who. What do you want to tell them? So understanding where they are in the funnel as it relates to your business. And then finally, what do you want them to do? And that being very clear on that end goal. And as far as what do you want them to do, I like to think about it from a digital standpoint the majority of the time. Yes, we are getting to a place where we can very much track some offline data. It's not perfect. So that would be more of that in-store traffic. But trying to think of it from a digital standpoint, what is it that you're hoping for them to achieve once you do get them to your site? Obviously, if you're creating awareness, you just want to let them know about your business. You want to get them in the door, right? Get them in the door of your website, get them looking around and getting familiar with who you are, or spark some sort of need, pull a little Steve Jobs and, help us understand that we cannot live without the iPhone, whatever that is. But the products that really help with that would be connected and addressable TV. So that really helps to, again, cast a large strategic net, bring people into the wheelhouse in the funnel. And I think about yourself. when you're a consumer, you see something on TV, whether you're streaming it or whatever, and you end up looking at it on your phone if it's something you're interested in. So this is like very, very similar scenario here. Then the next would be the consideration phase. So I would say all of the other digital products from a video standpoint can work really, really well to help nurture this along. So Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, pre-roll, those are great levers to pull to help nurture people down. And that would be, getting them to the learn more button on your website, viewing deeper products, actually making a purchase or putting something in their cart, right? So these are the platforms that are going to help kind of nurture and get those people moving along. And then finally, from a retargeting standpoint, you want to make sure you're utilizing all those channels. So for instance, I was having a conversation with my boss yesterday, and she was looking at a competitor of ours, obviously got retargeted on her phone, looked through that a little bit more, downloaded a white paper. Later that evening, she's watching TV with her husband, and boom, she got an ad on her. She was streaming something and got an ad for that competitor on her connected TV. So they're being very, very smart with how they're using their targeting. But I think it's cool because you can use connected TV and addressable TV now for retargeting. And we all know as marketers, retargeting is where you're going to get so much of your success and so many of your conversions. So now I'm going to talk more about retargeting because it is my favorite. So one of the things I just described with my boss, retargeting on other devices, clearly this company was also using that ability where they were reaching her on her phone as well as on her TV. So making sure that you're not limiting the retargeting device to just one, that you're using that cross-device targeting ability. And then also retargeting on other platforms. So as I mentioned before, really utilizing all of these components within your retargeting strategy is key. I know the person that handles our marketing personally, we have a really hard time reaching people on Facebook. So we're B2B, right? So it's just a little bit of a challenge. However, we use Facebook for our retargeting strategy because we know if they came to our site, most times they're going to be on Facebook or Instagram. So it really makes sense to retarget them there since we can't really get them from a prospecting standpoint on that platform. Another thing that's really, really important is segmenting your creative as well as your budget when it comes to retargeting. So first and foremost, overall, if holistically you're looking at your budget, we typically look at about 30% of your budget to go to retargeting, the other percent to prospecting. And that's really important to bring up because I know a lot of marketers, you have to go to your boss or your finance team and you have to justify the money that you're spending and the results that you're getting. And if you look at it on its face, you would think, why aren't we just putting all of our money in retargeting? The thing is, we need to constantly be filling that pipeline so we have people to retarget, right? So making sure that you're having those conversations and understanding that logic is first step. But then when you are retargeting, being really, really key and strategic. So again, let's just walk this through. I'm sure with the pandemic, we've all purchased something online. So you're all familiar with e-commerce, I bet. So let's just say it's an e-commerce company and I get to somebody's homepage, but then I leave, right? I'm a busy mom. I get pulled in 5 million different directions. So I don't even get to go through anything. As a marketer, I'm an important person, right? I clearly got to the homepage. I got to your website. I was interested, but I didn't go very far. So you want to retarget that person, right? But you might not want to spend as much money on that homepage visitor as you would to somebody who put an item in their cart and just left, right? So think about that. We can actually change your bid optimizations based on where people are on your website, on how they are engaging with you. So again, really prioritizing what you're going to spend on these people. And so down here at the bottom, this bid optimization strategy, you can see kind of what we would recommend. So again, just think about it from an e-commerce perspective. Get to the homepage. Yes, we want to retarget them. But if they got deeper and went to like a product page, I want to bid a little bit more on that person and make sure that I'm winning the bid because that's a hotter lead than, just the homepage visitor. And also understand that you can change the creative. So maybe say 25% off today, right? Trying to get them to come back in. Or when it's a cart, I'm going to spend a little bit more money on this person who has stuff in the cart because I want to get them to make that purchase. And then finally, the whole thank you. Have you tried something else? Like I said, works for me like a charm every time. So So following up with other products or services that might partner or pair with what this person had purchased in the past. So just some things to think about here, which I think is a really important piece. Another thing that's extremely important, and I'll talk about this also when we look at measurement, but is ad frequency. So making sure that you're looking at that as a measurement tool. And this was a really interesting study. It looks like Simula Media TV did this. But what they found is that if you're served one ad, you're 5.7% more likely to purchase this item than if you never saw the ad, which just makes sense, right? Because if you weren't aware of it, maybe you weren't going to purchase it. People are 4.4% more likely, though, to make a purchase if they saw the ad 2 to 5 times. So again, from a frequency standpoint, that 2 to 5 times, we're increasing the likelihood that they're going to make a purchase. However, if you get to that 6 to 10 area, it actually goes down. People are less likely to purchase. So think about that even from yourself. You know, when you're getting bombarded with ads, I know I see like the MyPillow stuff like all the time, and I love it. We buy them, but you know, we're getting so many of those ads, it can be a little bit annoying, right? So making sure that you are sitting within that 2 to 5 frequency sweet spot is really important. And that's something that the majority of the platforms will provide you what the frequency is on each ad. And so another thing that I want to talk about is just getting into the specific platforms and how to best utilize them. So, you know, when we looked at the funnel earlier, I talked about how important it is to kind of nurture people throughout different platforms. And it's important to kind of understand the dynamic between the platforms. So there's a side of this that is the walled gardens. That's your Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And then there's the open internet, which is anything programmatic. So you can use exchanges. We personally use the trade desk to go and be able to utilize all the websites that are out there and available to us, not just websites, but audio streaming like Pandora or why can't I think of it? But anyway, you know what I mean, the audio streaming. And then also the CTV, connected TV, there's all of this inventory that's out there and available, and that's the programmatic side. So the difference here that I just kind of want to make sure everybody understands, both are very valuable, both have so much to offer. It's just harder to maybe make quick shifts. So for instance, if you want to buy YouTube, you have to go straight to YouTube. Your budget is going to sit within YouTube unless you manually kind of like move it and put it where it needs to go. Same with social. There's some really cool things you can do with YouTube. I do want to mention, because YouTube is owned by Google, all the searches that happen within Google can be filtered into your YouTube campaign. So if you have something like, we're going to actually try this out soon for Adtaxi, that if somebody was recently looking for an agency or they even came to our site, you know, they're looking for the help that we provide, we're going to be able to then retarget them on YouTube, because we're going to take that intent data that Google's able to get and make sure that we're using that to serve the video. So I think it's a really cool, smart strategy. Another thing just within social that I think is important to mention is Snapchat. I think it's kind of this like hidden secret. I know, you know, it does get a lot of action for sure, but there is a much older demographic than I think people are aware of. And it has been pretty successful for us. Specifically, if you're a college or university or in that education space, definitely something to consider. So there's the walled gardens. Again, you need to kind of like go to those specifically. And then the open internet programmatic, which from a video standpoint, that would be that connected TV, OTT streaming, or pre-roll video. So pre-roll, just to kind of put it in your mind, if you go to ESPN to watch highlights of the baseball game last night, and there's an ad before you can watch that little highlight reel, that's what a pre-roll video is. And all of those things on the programmatic side can be segmented in different ways. And I'm only focusing on this a little bit more because I think the vast majority of us are very familiar with the power of what YouTube is and how that comes to light in our day-to-day. But programmatic has a lot of nuances around it that I just want to make sure everyone's very clear on. So first, the quality inventory is very, very important. You know, gone are the days of this like bot traffic fear, because I know a lot of the partners that we've worked with, they have a lot of they have a lot of things in place and safeguards in place to make sure that we're actually getting human verified traffic. So that's number one. The other thing is that there are so many different websites and areas that we can get in front of people. So when we think about that audience first, it really lends us to be able to reach to anybody we could possibly want across multiple different content and video channels. Then finally, on that audience and insight development, there's some really cool things that we can do. So there's a ton of, there's 194 plus third-party data providers. So when we're thinking about data, even with everything going on with the changes, there's so much data that we can still tap into and utilize, which makes it really nice from a marketing standpoint. You can also bring in LiveRamp, which will help you with a lot of things for building your own data and then also finding some of that offline traffic. We can do the cross-device targeting that I had described earlier. And then also that frequency bidding, you can make sure that you're putting those things in place. It'll really allow some nice levers to pull to make sure that you're having that frequency bidding in place, as well as recency. And I didn't have a slide for this, but recency basically means that an ad that is served to me from a retargeting perspective, ad number 1 is going to be a better fit than ad number 10, right? You're most likely going to get a result from me on retargeting ad number 1 than you are from retargeting ad 10. So you want to adjust your bid, right? So instead of saying, well, I'm just going to spend, a $10 CPN across the board, whether it's the first or the 10th ad, you're going to have like a tiered approach. So you're going to go down the more times that you're serving a retargeting ad, you're going to pay less money each time. So it's just, again, an interesting way to be really smart and strategic with your budget. So I did talk about, again, like the power of pulling everything together. And at Adtaxi, we did our own testing just to see, yes, it sounds right, it feels right, but is it really that great? And yes, it is. So what we found is we had a client that was running just connected TV with us and then added on pre-roll and some of our other channels. And when we found that we added more things on from a video perspective than just connected TV, 35% more users were reached, 49% total website visitors went up, and the website activity went up by 63%. So the rising tides definitely raised all ships. So we were able to really bring a lot more to the table by combining and reaching people in different spots via video. So next, this is great, right? We all want to do video, utilize video, but how do we measure success? How do we know if it's working? And if you remember this visual, right, as I was talking about like awareness, decision-making, consideration phase down in here, there's actually some different measurements you want to look at based on which goal that you're working towards. So if it is that branding and awareness, impressions absolutely make sense, right? We want to make sure we're, getting that frequency that's out there. Also reach and unique reach. So how many times are we serving a specific individual versus, just a specific amount of times? As we get further down, looking at the completion rate and the rewatch rate. So seeing, did they actually finish watching the video all the way through or not? Looking as well at something that's really interesting. I just want to say this from a creative standpoint, that's really cool. We can do with programmatic is sequential messaging. So if I serve you an ad to do the brand awareness and just get my name out there in front of you, and I know that you watched it, there's a trigger that happens that says, okay, we served Lindsay ad 1, now let's queue up ad 2. So the next time I'm going to market to Lindsay, I'm going to kind of keep that story going. I'm going to serve her a different ad, same brand, whatever, but just trying to nurture along. And so that's a really cool thing. And that's where completion rate would really help. So you kind of understand where people are in the viewing phase. And then as we get further down, cross-device targeting that I had described, being able to dedupe that. So again, I gave you an example of my boss, knowing that if we were looking at her on a data sheet, we would say, okay, this one person was served an ad on the mobile as well as on connected TV. So we're going to make sure that we look at that as one person and not two. So that's an important piece. The other thing that's really important, especially when it comes to video, is view through conversions. So most people don't click on, I mean, connected TV you can't click on, but a lot of people are not clicking on any of these video ads, right? Because they're here to watch a video, not, you know, interact with your brand at that time. But what we do see is that maybe I'm watching connected TV and then I go to my phone and I look up your business. That's more likely what is going to happen, and that is called a view through conversion. And it's a really important measurement because it's showing the impact that your ads are having. So I highly recommend making sure that that is something that is a part of your strategy. So finally, I'm just going to wrap up here quickly, making sure that you know, you're utilizing video in all the places available. You're remembering those 3 questions, understanding the differences between the walled gardens and the open internet, and then knowing how to measure the success along the way. And that is everything. So thank you.
Lindsay, thank you so much for a great presentation. Sorry, I couldn't get my mic unmuted there for a second. Thank you for a great presentation. We have gone to time, so I did have some questions I wanted to ask you. So let's just do this. Let's do a quick 1-minute lightning round session. I do want to ask you about CTV because I feel like that's relatively new for marketers. That's definitely not something I have thought about. Can you just kind of give a quick overview of what that looks like? How does that work? How do we even get into these ads, and where do they show and how do they show? So just give us a quick 60-second overview of the connected TV.
Absolutely, yeah. So connected TV, we've all streamed, right, over pandemic time, I'm sure. Netflix, Hulu, on the biggest screen in your house, right? On your TV, you're streaming some sort of content. So connected TV is just that. However, there are a bunch of free apps. So there's 2 strategies. There's the paid piece where you're buying a subscription to Netflix, or you're using the free app like Peacock, right? They just came out with an app that's free. Tubi, Crackle, like all of those are free. And so if you're watching content on there, it's ad supported. And so that's where the ads would come up. So if you're streaming any sort of free content, you would have an ad served. And what's really beautiful about it is that, again, it's the biggest screen in your house. You're using this amazing video creative form. So when you're purchasing it, again, we utilize the trade desk, and basically we have access to all the inventory that's out there from a connected TV standpoint that's open to purchase.
That's fantastic. I mean, certainly not something that I have ever personally thought about from a marketing standpoint, but it makes so much sense because these things are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
So much bigger. And it's so cool. And again, you can be very targeted with the audience, like I went through.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, Lindsay. It was great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciated being here. And I hope everybody, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about what I went over.
And friends, we truly value your feedback. So let us know what you thought of today's session. There will be a survey link that will be popping up. Maybe it has already popped up. I don't have chat open at the moment, but there'll be a survey link that will pop up momentarily. There's also, the link is available in the overview box right under the live session pro tips. So take 30 seconds, answer those 5 or 6 questions. Let us know what you thought of today's session because it helps us make these bigger and better every time. Now, the final presentation begins at 1:15 Eastern, and that is in about 10.5 minutes with George B. Thomas presenting Video Marketing Masterclass, Tips, Tools, and Techniques to Help Marketers Create Amazing Business Videos. So we've had a great first 2 sessions. We're looking forward to kicking off an amazing third one. So we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.